Okay. Need some sort of starting soon screen, I think. I had one on my old machine, so I'm going to have to put one together. Let me put out the word that we are live, and then we'll start this thing. Okay. Okay. Well, let's get started. So, welcome to everyone who is here or watching at home. Great to see you again. I'm going to try my daily survival. I'm going to try to do this every day. Try to stream it every day. Why not? And let's get to it. Okay. Normally, the first couple are just easy back row mates. I am seeing this hanging piece. So bishop takes d7 looks like it's probably the answer. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Okay, another weird one. It looks like they have just hung their queen. Did they at least take something? No. They just hung their queen, and I'll take it. Very weird. First couple of puzzles, just spot the hanging piece, take the hanging piece. All right, this one's also a little weird. I think we just take and run. Yes, they can also do it, but it's a lot more moves to try to get their pawn through. So we can just go. It's Jay Plemons. What's up, Jay? Here for some Queen in the Face mates. I saw you get one in your game. Congratulations. I didn't know that was a real thing. This looks like, pretty easy back row mate. This one would be an easy back row mate, but there's an escape square, but the bishop's covering it. So, it should be easy enough. Ooh, wow, okay. So we've got two pieces lined up on the king. So if we could take that, it would be mate. There is no defense of e7, so we just do queen takes e7 mate. Yeah, that's impressive stuff. I feel like that should be like something you unlock, right? Like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a quest you unlocked or something. Okay. This knight c2 looks like mate. Question is it? These squares are all covered. That's covered. Let's checkmate. Is rook c2 mate? That's where my head goes first. It's covered by that pawn. The pawn's covered by the bishop. This pawn on c5 is covering many escape squares. The bishop's covering the other one. So yes, indeed, that's checkmate. Oh, okay. So this is pretty easy, right? I think this is one of the first mates everyone learns. The h7 pawn can be a weakness when you castle long, especially if this knight is no longer here on f6. The knight has wandered away to do some fun stuff, and our queen comes in and checkmates. Boom, boom. Okay, so it took a knight. So we're down a piece. So simply taking back, which might be your first response, would be good. It would equalize again. But once again, the h2 pawn is there. The knight has left his post. We have made our battery. This is my daughter's favorite type of checkmate. She does these all the time in actual tournament games. She's gotten that exact mate like a million times. That is her signature mate. Okay. So this time, this pawn is being guarded, but it's only being guarded once, and we're hitting it 3 times. So take on h7 is check. They have to take back with the rook. We take with our other rook, and it's backed up. And so it's going to indeed be checkmate. Okay, this is an interesting one where this rook is covering the entire third rank. And the king can't come down at all. So can we cover the next rank? We can't go here. that would drop the rook. If we play h5 check, now the king has very limited options, can only go here to h4. And then the question is, now can we close the game out? Rook to f4 now that the king has left that post. And at first glance, that's an easy yes. And that is checkmate, except this pawn can block. But then we can take on g4 with the rook. It's being guarded, and that is going to get us there. So we're moving the king away from the defense of the square it has to be on to stop the mate, and then we deliver the mate. Okay, so this is an interesting one where we could just go here, double attack, right? So queen takes d4 would lead to a nice double attack. Is that enough? I kind of feel like we should be pursuing mate here because of the precarious nature of the king only having 2 potential escape squares. So if we just go to g5, then actually mate. Yeah. So giving up the double attack, going for the mate. Okay, did they take a pawn there? Yes. So black has moved their f pawn early, just giving us access to their king and saying, I'm confident nothing bad will happen to me. That confidence seems misplaced. Queen can go to h5 check. They could block with g6. This is a very standard pattern. We take the pawn in the middle, and we take the rook in the corner. Interestingly, then also, we have to look at if they go here, because this taking of e5 doesn't do anything. They just go here. We don't have many pieces out. So, developed. So if we go here, the king goes to e7. We do have this move, knight to d5. This is a very standard move. King has quite limited options once more. Can really only go to e6. And the question is, do we get mate from here? It seems like the answer would have to be yes. But I am not quite seeing off the top of my head how we get this mate. Check there. And we don't have any other choices for hitting this square. Unless we want to go queen takes e5. The king is here. The king has pretty limited options, right? The king can really only go to f7. And from there, we could check and c4. And they could block with the pawn, but we could take the pawn. Yeah, so it looks like this is going to work anyway. It's not what I would think, though. It's not the knight. And then they decide to go give up the rook path anyway. What's up, Woody Llama? How are things? Is that Woody or Wooly? Sorry, Woolly Llama. The very, very different llamas. Okay. This queen is defending this knight, and the knight is being attacked. So the question is, I'm first drawn to queen takes d7, bishop takes d7, knight takes e2. Sorry, not 7, 2. Check, and is that enough? Is it enough to simply win a piece here? It's 3-3. That's pretty devastating to go down a piece. The king isn't loose or weak. The rooks are all backed up. It looks like that's the only thing we have in this position, so I'm going to go for it. Okay. The pattern I'm immediately seeing here is this pattern. The locking down this pawn with the bishop or some other piece and then delivering mate. The question is, does it work? So let's try. Firstly, they don't have any surprise checks, so they can't disrupt us. And then the second question is, can they guard g7 after we move the bishop to f7? And the answer to that seems to also be no. So this is just that basic checkmate pattern. Okay. immediately looking at checks, captures. So this is a nice check on b3, but doesn't do anything. The king has 2 escape squares. One of them is bad. If the king moves to d1, we take on b1, and I think that's actually just mate, because the knight was covering this square. But if they go to c2 with a king, what do we do from there? Our rooks cannot get involved. We're down a bunch of material. I guess not a bunch, but we're down material, so we really need something dramatic. But that's also the only move I see in the position. Every other move seems pretty lame. So this has to be the first move. So knight b3, king goes to c2, and then what? I guess the answer would have to be queen a2, because again, if they try to slide back, they lose, right? So it's like here, here, here. So the only move they have is, let's go to d3. If they go to d3, I guess I have this move, don't I? Is this even checkmate? Knight c1. It's not. Yeah, no, it is mate, because this is covered and that's covered. So yeah, that's a very interesting mating pattern. Okay, and if they go there, we already saw that this leads to mate. So they went that way. Both ways it led to mate. Let me know if you like this approach better than previous approaches. I purposely decided to try to slow myself down a little bit, explain things a little bit more for 2 reasons. One, to help people who maybe are hoping to learn more about puzzles and how to solve them and how to think about them, to reveal my process more. And then 2, to slow myself down so I'm more effective at solving the puzzle. So I'm hoping it will accomplish 2 things by just going a little bit slower, being a little bit more deliberate. So let me know if you find it boring, though, if you're like, oh, this is too slow. This puzzle, I'm just at a loss. I'm just at a loss here. So what I'm looking at immediately is we have this lovely battery, and this would be checkmate. There are 2 pieces guarding that square. So it seems like a very far-fetched idea. I'm also looking at an idea, if I take here and they take back, suddenly this has no defender. But so what? I don't have anything to do anything about it. There's this pin here, so the rook can't even move. It would get taken on h3, but I was at least looking at h3. So this is definitely one where I'm like, okay, now I'm seeing the pattern though. So I was looking at a lot of wrong things, but I think good places to start. What I didn't look at was the only check I have available. And this check is actually quite strong, because this bishop is cutting off one set of escape squares, and the queen will cut off the other. And they can put pieces in between, but they all get captured along the way. So that works quite well. Okay. Is this checkmate? First question we should ask. It is not checkmate, but it's darn close. So king moves to g4. I guess the problem is... Nope, it's not a problem. After h5, the king only has one move. That is to g5. I can go with the queen to g3. The king can actually do something very interesting and come down to h6, threatening mate. And I can't even do much about it. So that's kind of a problem. And my king is feeling quite vulnerable and airy, so I don't love that. I do have other ways to check this king if I want. I can go to c3, I can go to a3. These are different geometries, right? These are different angles that I would be able to attack from then, depending on, you know, what I want to do, what diagonal looks best to use. Slower, better. Should write it all down if we're going to listen to Noel Studer. You know what? You're not wrong there. That probably won't work for streaming, though. Yeah, that would be rather time-consuming. Another angle I wasn't looking at is going here to h5. I don't think that's good. The king gets out either way. No, not either way. Only that way. But then they really look like they can go back and hide. So I don't think that's going to work. It feels like this is the move because it's the most restricting move. That's why I'm so drawn to it. It really leaves the king only one square, and the king is incredibly boxed in from here. And in fact, I don't know why I was looking at pushing that. That was the whole problem. By going to e3 with the queen, king goes to g4, queen goes to g3, that's actually mate, right? Because the king is boxed in by these pawns. This idea of checking with the pawn really released the box. But if I keep the box intact, then the mate is sure to follow. Okay. Also, Woolly Llama, you sound like a listener of the Chess Journeys podcast. So thanks for listening if you have been. All right, my immediate idea works. This is a very common pattern in these puzzles. We have the knight holding off d7, and so the queen just gets to sneak in and get a mate. Okay, this queen sneaking in here would not be mate. It's covered, and this is not a queen. This is a bishop. So none of those patterns work. That's just what immediately popped into my mind. But I will say it is kind of similar in that this bishop is cutting off all these important squares. We can look at this and say, in fact, the king can't even move. All we have to do now is deliver any check, and we do have a random check. Okay, so we've got, my question is that not mate? Queen takes d8, mate, and that is mate, right? The king can't go anywhere. And what drew me to this was not even the mate. It was just simply, look, this rook is hanging. Let's look at what would happen. Oh, wow, it's also checkmate. Yeah. All right. So here, king has 2 escape squares, which is nice, but not a lot of other room, right? These rooks are boxing it in. And in fact, if the king had to escape down, these pawns are restricting it. So that means this is going to be mate. Okay, I'm looking at this, which would be mate. So can we do something cool with that? If we could check, that would help. We can, but it would make an escape square. So is that a problem? Any of these, like, take this doesn't work. It just gives it gives that a backup. If we go here, they can take this way, and then that is still being backed up. So it's not mate. So some interesting things here. I feel like knight g3 is the answer. Knight g3. I think it is the answer. So knight g3, h takes g3, queen takes. That's the obvious starting point. And I made the mistake of stopping my calculation there the first time, which I think is fine to then look at the rest of the board. But make sure you come back if you stopped early. So king goes here to h2 and looks temporarily safe. But because the bishop is covering this square, we can check with the queen. Because this pawn is here, there are no escape squares. So when the king goes there, the queen can go there and deliver mate. So this is this kind of pattern that I've seen a million times, but I thought it didn't work. Then I looked one step carefully and said, it does work. All right, so the king, very much restricting this king. But if we go here, the king can go here. But if we go here, there's nothing our opponent can do. They can't set up a square for the king to escape to. The best they can do is put that rook in between and get checkmated. Okay, white. Okay, so it's a pretty scary situation for white. They are surely going to get checkmated. But, black also has a scary situation where we can take here and then see what happens. So if we take on f7, they cannot go to h8. That's mate. So the king has to try to wiggle out here. But it looks pretty restricted because of that pawn. So if we take on f7, king goes to h6. We take on h7. King goes to g5. Do we have a move to deliver mate? I believe we do. Because of this friendly pawn restricting this square and supporting that, the queen can just come down to h4, deliver mate. These two are in the way. It's a very standard pattern to just try to lock in your head that if you're attacking diagonally with the queen, the two like squares on the sides behind it, if the king can't escape to those, it is mate. So that's just a pattern that has become ingrained in my head. And what I mean is here, the king, if those are its two escape squares, and if its own pieces are covering them, or your pieces are covering them, then it's over. All right, Woolly Llama, who has been your favorite guest lately? And don't say Null Studer because he's too awesome. Okay. I want to look at this check. It's covered. But, you know what? We got another rook to come in. So we got the double rooks, and then the queen can come in. So if we can go check, takes with the other rook. So we have a rook right now on c2. They can only move here. And then queen d1 is mate. But, more importantly, after this check, they could just move the king immediately, but then we would still have the same situation. So this is going to work. King is trapped with a rook roller type scenario. Okay, do we have this idea? No, because the queen is covering it. So that is not the answer. But we have something very clever. Can we do it this way? A similar idea. This pawn can't move up to cut off the bishop. We have blocked it in. If they try to move this pawn to escape, that is not going to work. Notice our square is here in the corner on h8, not on g7, which is guarded. So we go here. Can they stop this threat? The answer is no. They cannot. Sorry, that doesn't stop the threat. Oh, it does stop the threat, but we can take. Okay. I probably should have seen that. Steppen. Okay. Yeah, that was a good get. I was so happy to get Steppen. I had been trying to get him for a long time. I feel like he's a pretty heroic figure in our adult improver space, and so it was pretty cool to be able to get him on. I don't think this works. This looks like the obvious answer. Takes to uncover the h2 play. They take back. We check, but then look, the king escapes. We do have a double attack where we can win this bishop, but we're down a bishop. So that's not enough. I see something very clever. Is it too clever? Is it too clever? The clever move is to go here, so that if they take, now the king cannot escape. But there is a problem with this idea. If I go here, it is attacking their queen even. They have to take. But they don't. They could take there. And now they're threatening our queen. So they're threatening our queen. We take their queen. They take our queen. We actually lose a rook. I mean, we lose an exchange. That doesn't work either. Okay. I also have this rook to cover this, but I don't think this works either. It's like check, takes back, check, here. And then what? If I go here, here, check. Maybe this works. Okay, so if they go, say, here, the queen would take here and it would be mate. But the question is, if when the king's here, if it comes out this way, Now what? Remember, our queen has jumped down to here, so can't easily deliver a check. The rook is falling. So if we go here, they can do rook takes rook. No, rook takes rook, check. Even worse. Oy, oy, oy. I feel like this has to be the answer, because everything else is just too slow. That bishop g3 move is too strong. Takes, check, there. There. Either way, I guess we end up winning this rook, so I think it's worth it. If we can't end up finding anything better, we win a rook at the end of this line. Right here, we win this rook. So they're giving us the piece. I'm giving up. Okay. I'll take that. That's 29. Perfect. So let's see if we can keep this going. This new approach seems to be dodging some of the problems, which is more similar to how I would handle it in a real game. If I was going in for a big tactic, I'm going to take my time, right? I'm not going to rush. I might rush some moves if I'm in time trouble. I'm not going to rush a big tactic. Okay, so what I'm immediately looking at is this king actually cannot even move. All we have to do is deliver any check in the universe, and we instantly win. Problem is, I see no way to do that anytime soon. The other problem is I can find some checks, but they involve loosening our grip on this king. So say I went here. They could take and lose an exchange. That might be a reasonable play here. But they could also just move the king. And then also, because of this pawn, I can't easily adjust. So I'm quite struggling with how do I finish off an obviously better position. Another problem is if I try to go here, the king actually has 3 escape squares. So I feel like the king should be fine. So then I'm drawn to, like, do I bring in this rook? But how? Like, it can't get in. So what I'm left with is this looks like a very tough puzzle. So the main move I'm looking at now is knight to g5 check. It's a very forcing move. It's actually going to allow me to go here then and fork these 2 pieces. And maybe that's what I'm looking for in this puzzle. I was sure I was looking for a mate, but the more investigation I do, the more it seems like a mate is not actually going to work here. Instead, what we're going to do is win a piece, and then we're going to win the game that way. Now that we're up a whole piece, we should be able to win. Okay, so we've gotten to 30. A couple things. We've got this check here. We've got this piece that looks quite vulnerable with this. So bishop c3, this is being hit twice. Not only that, it's like then hitting everything else. So I think that's better than the random check. I don't think the check does that much. That bishop move looks incredibly strong. Well, why don't they just take my bishop? It's not that strong. So a better move would be rook takes bishop first, queen takes, then this creates an unfortunate diagonal, as can be found in my chessable course. Where these 2 pieces, the queen will be here, the rook will be here. The queen can't actually even defend the rook, so when it moves out of the way, the rook will be hanging at the end. What we do need to be sure is that the queen can't do anything awesome on her way out. A check would be devastating, and there is not one. So we'll go here. We'll set up the unfortunate diagonal. Queen moves, and we win the piece. Okay. This piece is guarded by that king, and if we could chase that king away, we would instantly win. We cannot chase that king away. So then the other question is, if I go here, what happens? So if rook takes, king takes, e7, king goes to g6, our king goes to e6, and do we win this? Wow. So it's like what we end up with is say here, 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 here. Let's say the king has to move back. Our king goes up. Their king goes back to the square. Now what? We can't push this pawn. That will lose. So we kind of have to take here. And then their king comes over. And then we go here. And then their king comes over. And that looks like it wins. Looks like a hard win. So then the other question is, what if they do something else? I don't think they can do anything else, really. Yeah. No, anything else would lose the rook. Okay, I think this works. It looks... I wasn't expecting that. I think that is just bad. Right? And then we just run. Yeah. Yeah, we can just run. Okay. Alright, well that worked. 32. Oh, is this a queen in your face, mate? This late? Oh, no way. There's no way that could work. What? Why would this be the answer? That is just madness. Like the easiest mate in the world is number 32 or number 33? What? What's even the decoy? The hanging piece? I don't know. That's wild to me that is okay. I don't know what's going on. Very forcing move. Bishop check. Bishop b4 check. They can block it several ways. Also, this bishop is hanging. I mean, we could just take it. That seems pretty good. Queen takes bishop. I guess the reason that could be a problem is then they could play h3, trying to dislodge the pin. We go to h5. They play g4. And now we're going to lose some material back. But we could just take both pawns and be up several pawns. That's one thing to think about. Also, we could just take this knight. Right? So it's like here, here, we take the knight. And that works as well. What? That is truly shocking that that was wrong. Oh, right. This is not a permanent pin. This is a temporary pin. Oh my goodness. I was thinking they absolutely couldn't move this. But they can move it. And then we go here, we go here. It's actually just even. Wow, okay. So what if we go here first? We're up a piece. We go here, we're up to queen, yeah. So this was the way to do it. And if they take that way, they lose it. Ooh, I didn't actually see that. But then we have this. So this one was much more complicated than I saw. Much, much more complicated. And then we go here to defend that. Okay. On the way to 50. Well, I mean, we just missed one at only 33. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if 50s are happening today. Material's even. I feel like the move to look at is this. This knight is loose. It's backed up once. We're attacking it once. We can attack it a second time. If it moves, that's fine. We would just trade. So So I don't know. I don't know how I was so excited about that. Another interesting thing in the position is this David versus Goliath moment. Again, harkening back to my chessable course. The problem is they could get out of it by simply taking a piece, which is devastating, right? That does not work very well. So what's happening here? What is actually happening in this position that I'm not currently seeing? And by the way, this knight is the rook is being attacked by the knight. So that's the most pressing piece. So what if we just take... Then they take with their rook. We've lured another piece into the David versus Goliath situation, and now they can't respond as effectively. They can drop this check, but it loses the piece. So that's how we're going to do it. We're going to lure a different piece into this David Goliath setup, and then no choice but the second piece. Okay. So they're trying to draw here with this move. If I take, and they go here, and then we go here, we should know that this wins, because if they go here, we get opposition. So this is just kind of a basic opposition endgame puzzle. If you don't know that sort of idea, it's something very much worth looking at. I'm not a big fan of memorizing every endgame for lower rated players, but that one is a big one. That is the one that got me like 200 elo when I first learned it. No one else knew it, and I was just like, I am a god of endgames. And then, I got those 200 elo, and then I was like, okay, now people know different endgame stuff? Ah, that's no good. Okay, so I'm looking at this king being, I don't know, pretty boxed in. At first, I thought I could do something like this to try to set up a checkmate. But the king always has this g2 square. I don't have a light squared bishop to pressure this diagonal. I don't have a knight to pressure it. This is always a move for them. So now I've shifted to the knight is being backed up by the king. And the king can't go to the only square to continue defending the knight if it gets hit by something. So it looks like I could just simply push this pawn. If they take, and I take back, then when they take on g4, the knight is falling. And I think that works. Okay. That is enough material. Okay. 36 in the books. Where are we going now? Black to move. I'm seeing the king as being pretty vulnerable, but not ridiculously vulnerable. And in fact, my first thought was to move to d5, but then they can take the pawn. But if they do, there's a new problem. Both of these rooks are unattached and only held together by the king. And so the pestering of the king is going to cause us to be able to skewer one of these rooks. That's just what's going to happen. So let's see how we make it happen best. If we go here and they take, then it's easy. It's rook to e5, skewer. Boom, one square down. If they go c4, this one looks a little harder. Because if I follow and go to c5, if they come back, I chase the king away, skewer. But if they don't, if they go here, continue to defend the rook, then I pull the king away with this move, a5. So once again, pulling him away. The Chess Phantom is back. Welcome back, Chess Phantom. Okay, so there's one last move to look at, which is here, making it very hard to skewer because we can no longer skewer this rook because of this pawn. But guess what? There's another skewer. Remember we said both of the rooks were loose. We're going to go here. Now this rook is cutting off this entire file. The king can't come back. That rook is going to be lost. So we've covered all the squares. They all get skewered for different reasons. I thought this would be the one they would go for because it's the most complicated. But we did have to cover all of those potential escapes. Wow, so we're down a queen for a rook. That is not great. So how do we handle this? And I noticed immediately what I cannot do is lure the king to this square to skewer it, which was my immediate idea because the bishop's covering it. So that's already out. My main idea in the position is gone. So then now I'm looking at basic stuff like check. Check king equals good. I'm not sure here it is. It feels like king escapes. I check. King escapes. Can't skewer. King escapes. So that's not that great. I guess something to note is this rook is very lonely. There's nothing backing it up. So rook here could be good. So let's say I went check here, check on h1. The king has to go here to back up this rook. So I can't just take it. Then I could go this rook up to g2, trying to dislodge the defender of that rook. But then they could attack my rook, and now I have two hanging pieces. My rook on h1 is hanging, and the one on g2 is hanging. And it's, notice how it's going all along these light squares to dodge this dark squared bishop. I have no control of the light squares. And I guess this could maybe still work. We could go here. But then if the king goes there, but then check. Here. Very close to a mate with a rook roller style mate. So that's interesting. That's a possibility. I'm looking at like sacrificing on g2 does not seem to work. Sacrificing on h1 doesn't seem to work. I think the only thing we have is this idea. And I haven't been able to calculate it fully. It's a very long calculation. But I was able to calculate enough that I think we're going to cause enough problems here that this is going to work out. Now that we're closer, maybe we should start calculating a little more. Maybe we should calculate this idea of rook f8. I'm just worried if we do that, they go to e2, and we really don't... I guess we do have a follow-up on f2, but then they go to d3. And now it's kind of like, yeah, gets away. So I think we need to pressure the rook this way. We come in here. This rook is hanging. We could, and if nothing else, we can just go here and win the hanging rook. Is that enough material? 2 rooks for a queen plus some pawns. I think that is enough material. We should see if we can get a mate. I was looking at this before when we were farther back, but obviously that would not work. I think just taking the rook is going to be our best option here. Yeah, we're going to take the rook and say that's enough material. Oh, interesting. They walked into a what? An unfortunate diagonal. So yes, they get our rook, but we get the queen. All right, that's 38. You misvisualized after a certain point. Yeah, if it's what if it's what I just talked about, then you're definitely right. And yeah, I say it's a word. If we say it's a word, it's a word. That's how the English language works. You get to make up words. There's always new words. Okay. Interesting stuff. We're down 2 exchanges. But their king looks so vulnerable. But also at the same time not vulnerable. It's a very weird position. I think this one is very important to note that we can make a quiet move. They cannot check us. They can't even take any of our pieces. Nothing is hanging. This is being attacked, but it's not hanging. So we have the ability here to make a setup move is what I'm trying to say. We can do a little setup if that's what is required. So for instance, if we got 2 moves, we could go here and then queen in your face mate. So we should look at that. What if we went there? They could take our bishop. We don't care. Can they stop this mate? The king cannot move. Can they cover e2? They can. 2 ways, but both of them will just hang a queen. So I think that's it. We make a quiet move, and we get our win. Unvisualized. I don't think I unvisualized. I think I just visualized wrong. So I think misvisualized sounds great. Okay. King not really in jeopardy for them. So now I'm looking at like hanging pieces, and I'm looking at this idea. If I were to go here and take on d5, this loose bishop would be hanging, but it's not hanging. That was a mistake. It is being backed up. So I should look at some other pieces. This piece is looking vulnerable. I could do some sort of discovery moves on that. If I go here, though, actually, I was thinking they could take with the queen, but they can't because it's also being backed up by the pawn. So let's start there. Knight takes d5 is threatening what? It's threatening a fork here, which is defended, but they're not going to take there. It's threatening this trade, which doesn't do much. It is threatening to open up this diagonal, which is kind of cool, but I feel like just this is enough. Material-wise, we're even. So if I get to go here, where are they going to put the queen? Let's say they put the queen here, which is a little bit interesting. We'll look at that. We go here, check. They move. We take. They take our queen. We take back. Yeah, I think this works. I think this is the idea. And we did find their best move, which is nice. And I don't think we have to do anything about it. Or do we? I mean, maybe the answer is takes. If we take with the queen, they take with the bishop, we still have our same move. If we try this idea first, does that backfire at all? Do they have something cool that I'm missing? They move the king. I take. They... I don't know. Which is the right way here? They both look like they work, and one probably does not. This one doesn't work. So if we take first, it's because the knight, and the knight ends up threatening here with check. So we need to go this way. And then now we have 140 in the books, only one wrong. And that one wrong was a slight miscalculation. I don't think I should have missed that one. I think this was mate. H4. The king can't go anywhere up there. Can't go to any of these squares. The king is holding him out. We just go there. And the king goes there. Okay. Alright, the king could go there, apparently. That was worrisome that we missed that. A couple of checks here. Here and here, the two biggies. So we go F5. This is the ultimate escape square, but I don't think he can reach it, right? So king goes here, and then there's actually mate. So this works quite well. Okay, 41. Down some material. Gonna be a weird material situation if we take that rook. We've got two minor pieces and a rook for the queen. But there's also this cool discovery stuff. So like if we go here, the king can't escape on this side. The king is forced to come that way. It is check, but then we can't go drop our rook there for mate, unfortunately. If we could, that would be game. So what could we do? We could go... Okay, first of all, it's check. We're in check, so that's important to remember. That's fine. We can still look at this kind of stuff. And my thought was maybe we could go here because this is being covered. But then I was like, my king's pretty vulnerable. And I was like, oh, he's in check. Probably the answer is takes here then. This just seems like a pretty strong answer. We still have this stuff after that gets resolved. Let's say they go here. Double attacking these two. So queen is on e5 with check. What do we do? I don't know. That's a tough one. I think probably just king g7. This is clearly the right idea. We don't have any other ideas. I mean, we're up a lot of material and we have this attack. I don't think we have to actually make the attack happen. That's the point. Oh, this is much better now, actually. It's actually winning the queen. And if we go here and they take the free piece, and we go here, we're also still winning the queen. So that's very important. So we just need to make the king safe. If I go here, can't go here or here to check. So that looks right. Okay, and then when they go there, bam, winning the queen, winning the game. Chess Phantom deleting his message. Okay. And look at this. We're at 42. We're getting there. Okay. This one looks hard. The king looks safe. My opponent has nothing obviously hanging. The rooks are working very well together. I guess the thing is, if I could move this bishop, this rook or this knight would be hanging, but I can't move the bishop because it's pinned. So, what the heck do we do? Also, that knight is pinned. I didn't even realize that. The knight is also pinned. So there's a lot of pinning and counter pinning and all kinds of things happening here. Okay, interesting thought. Here takes... this knight was gone. I was thinking I could check here. But even that I don't think works. Okay, another idea is give up the queen. King takes on b5. I go to c6. It is check. The king can only come back. Rook here. King here, other rook here. I think this works. Let me think about it one more time without arrows. Queen takes b6. King takes b6. Bishop c6. Check. Oh, okay. I guess there's an issue that the rook could just interpose, but we would just take and it's backed up, so that's fine. So the king has to go back. Rook takes on b7. Only square is c8, and then we checkmate at the back. Wow. Wow, that's a nice one. And I even saw those. Nice. Okay. Pretty happy about that one. You were trying the puzzles. Yeah, try them. You can leave wrong messages. That's fine. Feel free to delete them, leave them, whatever you want. I'm not looking at your message until I finish it, so that I'm not influenced. I don't want to, especially since I'm honing in on my high score. You know, I wanna make sure I'm not using your information. But you can feel free to put it there. That is fine. Okay, what I'm looking at here is a lovely little double attack. Check. King takes back on g7. Queen goes to g3. Check. Loose rook. So like when I look at this position, I'm immediately thinking two things. Pin, loose rook. How do I take advantage? Now the question is, since we're down an entire piece, can I take here and have my opponent just go, fine, have that piece. That was my extra piece. I don't even care about that piece. And the problem is, it seems like the answer is yes, that works fine. Material is, they would be down one single pawn. But they have another problem, which is very interesting. Then I could take here on e6, and if they take that rook, then this rook hangs. So this definitely works. Okay, so they decided to go that way and give up this rook. I didn't look at that. That's fine. Ooh. That is not fine. That's checkmate. Oh my goodness. Wow, I missed something pretty critical here. What? How does this not lose? Oh no. I don't have a sneaky check. I don't understand how I'm not lost. So queen takes queen. Either way they take back, they're just straight up a rook. If I try something cute like rook takes e6, they take my queen. If I try to check on e5 with the queen, they take my queen. I don't know. And if I take their rook, queen takes g2 is not mate. Okay. I was thinking this rook was backing up that square. It is not backing up that square. And in fact, after I take here, they have to deal with this. Okay. That was quite funny. Wow. Hey, big fan of your podcast and Road 2200 series. Glad to catch you stream. Wanted to donate as a thank you for the content, but can't find anything here. So thank you. Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Nary7. That's good motivation to try to figure out how to set things up to donate here. Yeah, I've been mostly streaming on Twitch, which is set up. But yeah, I'll have to try to figure out how I can do that. So, but thank you so much for the thank you and for the desire to donate. Really appreciate it. You could go to Patreon and sub there, but I don't know if you want to make a commitment to multiple months or anything. But regardless, thanks for watching this show. Thanks for listening to the podcast, and thanks for supporting the content. Okay, let's look at the most obvious move. Bishop f1. The reason it's the most obvious is because it is allowing a check and restricting the king. I feel like for some people, maybe the more obvious move is to come back, but that's not restricting the king. If I go here, the king loses another square. So the king basically has to go to g1. And so then the question is, do I have time to make this two-move mate? So it's like here, 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 here. I need one free move. So check. I get that move for free. They go there. I go queen to h3, threatening g2. What do they have? Oh, they have some stuff. At first I thought they had nothing. But they do have this idea of going knight check. If I take, rook comes here, check. Then if I try moving, this is mate. If I try moving this way, they get to go here, check. And suddenly I'm on the run, and maybe it wasn't fast enough. Okay, so first thing I'm putting in my head is like, let's see if we can be more direct with our attack before trying to figure out if we can survive theirs. Because there was another move I could make that's even more direct than what I was looking at, which just takes on g3, loosening their king even more. So they take back. Now let's say I go down here. They go here. That doesn't really help though, right? It doesn't give me anything additional. And if I go here first, and they go right to g1, then that bishop take doesn't really help or do anything. Alright, I feel like this is the move. Bishop takes g3. Man. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not seeing it. I guess let's look at bishop g4. King g1. And I don't even have another check. Okay, so the direct approach does not seem to be working. So now we have to circle back to, can we survive their attack? Can we get one single free move? If they go knight c5, can I just go king e7? Are there no attacks? Are there no more checks? Problem is, there are checks. There's this check now as the second knight comes in. And then I escape over here. And now they check me. And then I escape again. And now this knight reaches me from this square. I don't think I can get the king safe here. I just don't think I can. I will say this, though. Oh, no. I won't say that. I was going to say with the bishop here, I can stop that check. But the bishop is going to be down there on f1. So, this is a tough one. How do I do this one? I feel like I definitely have it. And now it's the question of combining ideas together to make it work. Like, is there a different square the bishop would be better placed on to, say, stop the checks? I don't think so. This is the move. That is not the move. All right. Let's take a look at that. I don't know what the move is here. Okay, so the more obvious move was the right one. It looks like it adds so little. Like if I try to go there, it doesn't do anything. If I go here, it doesn't do anything. I don't even understand what this move does. It lets me go here. Ah, very interesting. So it was combining the ideas, right? So it was, if I could get this bishop to this square to cover this square, now I can escape the check by going here. And now the guy can't go there. And apparently it doesn't work. And that doesn't work. So I take, and now when I go here, oh my goodness, here, here, here. Okay, so when I go here, I don't know. I don't know what the difference actually is then of being there versus there. There's probably some other line in there. Okay, well, I had the right idea, but I couldn't quite piece it all together. So we've completed 44. We missed this one, we're out. Our journey to 50 will be done. So I've got an idea. Let's not miss this one. Let's just get this one right. And I think I see the mate already. I think the idea is go here, which is a very forcing move. Let's say they couldn't go there. They can. If they couldn't, then they would go here, and we'd go here, mate. But by moving here, we have released the hold over that square. So is that actually what we want to do? Probably not. But can we do the same idea, but going the back route, and then hitting that? So if we go here, these are all held off. They can only go here. Then we go here, which is supported by the knight. And this is something we saw earlier. When you're attacking from this diagonal, if these two squares are covered, it is mate. There is one last thing to look at. What if they go with the rook, but then we just take with the queen? So that is mate. 45. Okay, here we go. We're going to do it. This one looks challenging. The problem I'm looking at is that this king has a very easy escape to anything I do. Like this is, oh wow, I was looking at this as the quote obvious move. That is not. That is backed up. So the obvious move would be this check. I'm going to say they escape this way. It does hang, does not hang a piece. I have to really somehow remember that that rook is not hanging. For some reason, my brain's like, that rook is hanging, man. Don't believe what you see. I'm telling you it's hanging. It doesn't seem to work, though. I don't even see a follow-up. This rook being on e1 looks poorly placed. Like, it's well placed for some things of, like, restricting this. But then it doesn't have much more, like it can't add more checks. So I kind of feel like I need to find some sort of geometry that lets the queen come around to the other side since the king is being cut off from the whole other side of the board. How do I do that? And the obvious way seems to be to come through here, here, and then check here. The problem is the knight is covering c5, and that does not work. And with that not working, now I'm at a bit of a loss. And also, of course, the knight is covering f8. I guess an interesting question is this queen doesn't have that many squares. Like if we were to play rook e2. It has a shockingly small amount of squares. It has these two squares and this square. That is it. That is not a lot of squares. If it comes back to f1 and I were to check, and that doesn't really accomplish anything, right? It just goes back. But it's important to remember that. Maybe we can work that into our moves here. Another idea is to go like this. And let's bring the rook in. The reason I haven't been looking at that is it just feels like our king is not sturdy enough to do something as bold as that. But let's see. Maybe I'm wrong. Because if we could get that to work, I think this would lead to victory. So, what can the queen do? Really, the queen can just go here, check. And then, let's say I go to d2. I can go back to f2, check. And then I go to d3. And the problem is now the knight can deliver a check. Maybe I go like this. I go rook e7, queen f1, and then I go knight e1, blocking the check and controlling the only two checking squares. Now the queen has to like come out here to guard this knight, but if they do, I take, and they take, and then I take. So I'm going to go with this. I think this works. There's a chance it doesn't. I wasn't expecting that at all. I think that just leads to mate. And then eventually these two are going to go next to each other and track them down. Okay. Got there. 46. Weird one. Looks easy, but we got to be very precise. So it's like boom, 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 boom. There's 4 moves. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then our pawn comes up. And then we're fine. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this should work fine. No! What? I calculated that very carefully. Oh, no. Okay. I'm going to just go right to the engine because I'm shocked that that didn't work. So here is where they were. Got to be perfectly okay. Yeah, so if they were there, how does this not work? This looks even worse. Oh, they can go g5. Oh, I was thinking the only thing you could do is go here, and that totally doesn't work. And then otherwise it works perfectly. I calculated it perfect. This works just wonderfully. And then we win. What I missed is, what if they just go here, and now we're just draw, right? Because we can't do anything. If we were to go to here, we lose. If we take here, they take back. That's a draw. Bah! Balderdash. That's a rough one. So what I had to do instead is prevent the pawn from coming in. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that enough? 1, 2, 3. This is not enough. So that's kind of a tricky one then. But if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, it's still the same 4. But no, because if I go here, it allows them to go there, and then it's just a draw again. So this is the move, but it gets a little tricky now because 1, 2, 3, and they're there. 1, 2, 3. But then I get to go there because it'll be my move. Yeah, and then it's this thing. Oh, that was a hard one to miss on. I had it all figured out, and then I messed it up. So, we got to 46. Not bad. Not as good as I would have liked, but not catastrophic. I think we're going to stop here. Thanks so much for stopping by, everybody who came by. Vivek, Chess Phantom, 7 Nary 7. Woolly Llama, and Jay Plemons. It's good chatting with you all. And hope you all have a great rest of your day. And maybe you can make 50 and let me know. And then I can feel good that at least you got to 50, even if I couldn't quite get there. I feel like I had it. I feel like that last one, that was a very tricky thing that I missed. I calculated it perfectly and I missed something tricky. Oh, well, welcome, Pond. Thanks for coming by at the end. Appreciate it. Okay, that's going to wrap it up. Okay, well, I'll see you all tomorrow. My plan is to do this every single day until I get good at chess, which will be, I don't know. Who knows? I shouldn't say that. I should say better at chess, right? I'm okay at chess. I'm not good at chess, but I'm okay at chess. We should stop the negative talk. All right. I'll see y'all next time. Goodbye, everybody.